nice little thing, we pursue her. See a nice little thing, we pursue her. Yeah.
Welcome, Neha.
Thank you.
Well, I should say I'm the one being welcomed. So we're just gonna talk life.
Okay.
We're just gonna talk life. Tell me about your where we are. You know.
So basically, I recently moved. You know this, that I moved because of the dogs, and I was living in Hoboken before. Well, before that, I was living in the city. Then I moved to Hoboken. I had 2 dogs during that time, but the female dog ended up getting pregnant. I didn't get her spayed in time. There was a big wait list, and after COVID, she ended up getting pregnant. So she had 3 puppies, and I'm thinking my life is fine because I'm in an apartment building that, you know, is pet friendly. But they said they basically only allow 2 pets at a time, and they'd wait until I could place the puppies. But after 4 weeks, I couldn't get rid of them because Joey, the girl dog, she was just in love with them. So I basically spent maybe a week looking for a new spot, and I moved myself and my puppies and my 2 dogs here to Long Branch, and I got an Airbnb. So that's where we are.
And I see one of these are right next to us. Maybe
Yes.
they'll make a cameo later on. Maybe I'll turn the camera on her.
Yeah.
She we just took her for a walk, right? So that's why she's knocked out.
She's asleep right now.
So how long does she usually, after a walk, will she just be knocked out before she's up ready for you to take her on the next walk? Or
I mean, she usually wakes up within an hour, but she, you know, she's really, really calm. I'm actually next door at another Airbnb because she's in heat right now, so we just took her away from the rest of the pack so she wouldn't get pregnant. But yeah, no, she's a really, really sweet dog. So.
yes, this, as you know, I can be scared of some dogs, and she's real chill.
Yeah, I remember you were afraid of Odie.
Yeah, I was afraid of Odie, especially when that was in Hoboken.
Yeah, Hoboken. You came to the dog run to come see me.
I said, whoa, this big old dog. Because they look like wolves.
He looks like a wolf.
He looks
yes.
like a wolf. Like, there's no difference, and he's big and he's strong, and you could tell he's the lead
He's
dog.
an alpha dog,
He's
too.
the alpha dog, yeah. So I'm like, all right, let me just be on good terms with him. You know, us have a mutual understanding, and then we can move forward from there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I always wanted dogs growing up, but we just could never have any.
So these are your first time, this is your first time
My
having
first
dogs?
time having dogs, and, you know, it's just been an adventure, and I love it. But the only other time I've been, experienced a dog was when I went to Jamaica, and my grandparents actually live on a farm, and they had dogs and cats and chickens and goats, but that was the only experience I ever had with dogs, basically. But we never had dogs at home.
So they had a farm, and they had what type of animals on it?
Cows, goats, cats, dogs, no pigs, believe it or not, chickens, roosters. So basically I spend my summers out there, and that's where I was exposed to most of the animals.
So it's funny because now I feel like we're living in times where a lot of people, we got sold on the city life, the busy rat race, and now a lot of people are choosing to go back to the off-grid life.
But honestly, that was my plan, to live in New York City forever. And when I finally got to New York City for my residency, I was just so excited, you know, just to be in the city life and experience everything.
And now,
It's completely different now that I'm older. I somehow, like, nature is calling me again. That's why I ended up back here.
so you have the dogs now. I guess you're always now going to have a big backyard. I know that was something that you were missing. So you have that now. The walks are obviously a little bit different. What else are you excited about? Are you excited about the dogs and you being able to explore the Jersey Shore for the first time this summer?
You know, yes, that's been really exciting. We've been taking them for a walk to the beach every night, but it's been cold. They do love the water. She loves the water probably the most out of everybody. But we'll be excited when it gets warmer to be able to go experience everything. I'm excited. I was excited about buying a house, but, you know, I always say our generation keeps getting screwed. Because right now, even you looked up the house next door. It was close to $1 million for
2.5 bathrooms.
2.5 bathrooms. I don't know how many
I
bedrooms.
think it was, hold on, I think it was, because I got it saved right here. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms.
We're not even in the city. You know, we're an hour and a half from the city. And we're not right by the shore. We're still 20 minutes away from the shore.
Mm-hmm.
And just to get to the train station, it's a 20-minute walk. And even to get to the ferry, it's still 15, 20 minutes away. So I wouldn't say that these are $1 million properties. I can't say that. Maybe this one, he has 2 Airbnbs attached to the house. I would say I'd pay maybe $1 million for this one because, you know, we could rent the rest of the space out. But
Right.
that place, no.
Yeah, it's, I don't know what's going on in Jersey. I've been looking at homes the last couple of years, and everything is telling me I do not need to be in Jersey.
I know.
Like I'm looking at Texas. Do you know? So that home that's almost $1 million. It's like when you look at these properties in Texas, Tennessee, Florida, and even Florida, well, outside of like Miami and the major cities, but you can literally live like a queen or a king. You know what I mean? And we're in Jersey, bunch of traffic, bunch of mean people. Bunch of pollution, bunch of all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna spend more to have less.
I mean, I could say that this area is very quiet. The air is fresh, and you know, I'm
Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky. You're by the water.
And it's not really Jersey Shore. It has best of both worlds. It's very, very quiet, and actually, believe it or not, the Airbnb guy has been so sweet. He's been walking my dogs for me and just babysitting whenever necessary. So he's been really sweet, you know.
So then, yeah, so I guess what Neha's saying is just get out of the busy hustle and bustle areas of North Jersey and the city. Get out of the Hobokens and all that stuff. It's tough. It's the city.
The Hoboken is also the city because I literally was looking for a house. There's not one house in Hoboken. It's all condos. The properties that I were looking at were $1 million properties, but they were 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and they were very, very small, just like you would see in Manhattan. I mean, I think to each his own.
Yeah,
You know,
because some people like the city. It's funny. I always wanted to live in the city, and I know you
Me
lived in the
too.
city, so you kind of got that out of your.
But that was my dream for
Yeah.
most of my life.
Yeah, like I remember. Maybe I'm giving away too much info, but I used to watch Sex in the City every night.
No way.
Yeah, I used to watch Sex in the City. Big fan of Sex in the City and the movies. I think I watched, what is it, 3 of them now? I think I watched every one. My favorite's the first one, I believe.
Who's your favorite character?
All right, so Samantha is the crazy one, right?
Yeah,
the one
she's the one that's more out there.
yeah, so
with her
she's a little out
sexuality.
there. I like the what's the lady, the red hair one that's kind of really she's very proper.
She was a lawyer.
Yeah, she's cool. And the writer,
She was the star.
That's the main
Carrie, main character.
and who was her? Biggs was her husband, right?
Oh,
Or that's the one that she.
Mr. Big.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the epitome of New York man.
See, New York man, yeah. Biggs
Yeah.
was. I was like, yo, you look at this and you're like, yo, I want to live in the city.
Really?
And that's when I was probably like, I think when I was in prep school.
Wow.
So I was probably 18 when I used to. I feel like that was the only channel that I got.
Why did you want to live there? To meet the ladies?
I
or
still want to live
to
there.
be Mr. Big.
Just I'll get the city. I still get a rush whenever I'm driving across that George Washington Bridge, or even going through the Lincoln Tunnel. I still get a rush because there's just so many people. Like you feel the energy when you're going across. It may be negative in some ways, but there's a lot of just opportunity out there, and there was always just. It's almost like in basketball, playing at like the Rucker, like it's a popular, tournament out there where you do it in Jersey, but then if you do it in New York, like if you can win in New York, you can win anywhere. Like that's just really that feeling. So I don't know. You always want to compete in the most competitive areas. Just like you competing in New York as a doctor, as a podiatrist.
Yeah,
like that's something big.
Man, I went to school in Chicago, and I always thought I would end up in Chicago doing my residency, things like that. But I ended up getting my residency here in New York. And I just remember during my internship, I was living with my uncle, and he actually lives not here. He lives very, very far away.
Where's he?
On the train. What is that place near Yale University?
New Haven?
Yeah, he lives in New Haven.
Okay.
And I think I'd have to wake up at 4 a.m. He'd drive me to the train station, and I'd actually sit on the train for 2 hours to get to my residency, which was in Manhattan at the VA. I'd get there at 7:15 every morning, so I was never late. I couldn't be late. I had no choice. So they loved me there. I was never late. So I ended up getting my program there. That's how I came to New York. But I just remember, believe it or not, I mostly remember the smell in the morning. It wasn't bad.
It was amazing.
It smelled like coffee and like fresh bread, to be honest.
See, like the bakeries. The bakeries getting go. I feel like that's the only reason why I drink coffee. And there's something to say about New York. And, the city, it probably shuts down. Well, it never really shuts down, right?
Yeah.
But maybe around like somewhere between 3 and 5-ish, it's kind of like, okay, everybody's just getting their little power nap in for a lot of people. And then by the time 5 hits, there's going to be people, like, you're going to feel the energy of the city waking up and walking in a busy, like you're bumping into, you got your coffee, and now we don't have the newspapers. I always wanted to have the long coat. Like I used to see my dad dressing.
And the New Yorker, I was obsessed with the New Yorker.
The magazine? Yeah. See, that's what, New York, I feel like will always be New York. And so now that I guess when we're talking about your journey to New York, what was it like starting off, not only living in New York, but being a doctor, living up to that dream, becoming a surgeon, not just a doctor. A lot of times people think a doctor there's a difference. Becoming a surgeon, becoming a podiatrist, and early on, like what were some lessons that you learned in your social life maybe? Just being a normal person living in the city, and then maybe some on the professional side as well.
So I remember my first day as a resident. I got there. We each got a co-resident. So I'm sitting there, my co-resident is not there. I'm in this room, and they're like, where's your co-resident? I have no idea who the girl is. She walks in, tall, blonde, gorgeous, and I'm like, she's my co-resident. It was just crazy. Turns out she was Miss Plus America.
What?
Miss Plus America was my co-resident my first year there, believe it or not.
What's Miss Plus? What is plus the?
So basically they had Miss America, regular size, but then they also
have
have
the plus size. Okay.
It for plus size girls.
So so that had to be a little intimidating maybe
I was
day.
a little intimidated. I was like, really? Like
I gotta compete with Miss Plus America in here? Yeah.
So no, I don't want to say anything crazy, but she was, this blonde, very outgoing, outspoken person, and I was this shy girl coming from wherever I was coming from, and she was my co-resident. So, but anyway, I learned a lot from her. She taught me a lot, and New York taught me a lot. I don't know. There were some things that's
so
very
let me unpack it so you don't say too much. New York, how would we describe New York? New York
will eat you up and spit you out.
New York will eat you up and spit you out.
If you let it.
Yeah.
If you ask me about my experiences, I probably had some experiences that you wouldn't even believe would happen to somebody.
And I can imagine being in an industry as a woman. It could be a little bit of a different experience. It is mostly a male-dominated industry. So I can imagine that you would have to overcome some of that stuff. And it's like, and I gotta be honest, I feel like I know some, I'm trying to tread carefully as I'm even asking questions, but even from a business side, one of the things that I'm impressed with is you have your own practice. So people may not really understand the difference between some of the doctors and surgeons that, let's say, work as part of a hospital system, or doctors and surgeons that have their own practice. Maybe talk a little bit about that and why you chose to become independent, work your own hours, create your own schedule, but there's also a bigger risk with that as well.
I actually didn't get offered any hospital jobs when I graduated. I inquired about being at the residency program as an attending. They weren't hiring.
What?
And there was
we gotta go talk to.
Yeah, there was no females that had full-time jobs. I mean, it's a veterans hospital, so.
Really?
No, the one female that had a job, it was part-time, and she didn't have any benefits. So, and I also asked around. I tried to get some other jobs, but I basically got 2 part-time jobs. And the one job, the practice that I joined, my senior resident got me the job. So basically, I'm thinking that this doctor's great, everything's going well. So he's like, yeah, we'll pay you this amount of money, and you just have to see patients. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much I should tell, but I think you'll cut things out.
Yeah, whatever we need to cut out. If you see it clipped up, then that just means there's a exclusive interview that we'll have to unreleased version.
Yes.
Save for later.
So this was my first encounter with fraud, not my last, but. I'm sitting in the office. He's like, you need to see the patient. I'm trying to do what I need to do. I'm treating the patient, and every patient that comes in, he was like, you have to order this test for them, and they'll go do the test first, and then you see them, you'll write them for shoes, and they'll be on their way. And I'm like, okay, well, when do I treat them? Just treat the patient how you think you should treat them, and be on their way. So they come in, I don't know where the patients are coming from. They're coming in vans and things like that. They're not the best dressed. They don't look like they're the richest, but I'm treating them. And after a while, he sends me to another place in the Bronx, which is like a clinic, and they're just bringing the patients in, and they're getting treated by all different doctors, and I'm the podiatrist in the clinic. Every so often I'll hear like a fight in the front, and my assistant will be like, no, nothing's wrong, everything's fine, and you're like, okay. Come to find out that the whole clinic was based off of people who are coming into America. They were testing them for everything, test them for any type of STDs. So when they would find out that, okay, so in order to get housing in the Bronx, you have to be HIV positive. So they would test these guys. So once they were HIV positive, they'd send them a letter. So these guys would be coming in like crazy, but they'd get their housing. But, some people, they obviously didn't like that. So I kept coming to the clinic, and one day I come in, and everything's being dismantled, everything. And just around me, and I'm sitting there, and they're taking down the signs, everybody's leaving, there's all kind of calamity. And I call my boss, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, no, it's okay. So I go home that day. My boyfriend at the time calls me, and he's like, your boss is on the news. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, so basically he's going to jail for Medicare scam. It was called the sneaker shoe scam or something like that. So basically they made a few $1 million just promising people shoes, homeless people. They would bust the homeless people in, promise them shoes, and then, do the testing and bill the insurance. And so I was like, what's going on? So my boss texted me, and he's like, I don't need you anymore. You're fired. And I was like, okay. So it turns out he lost his license, goes to jail, things like that, and I have no job.
Wow.
And I lost both my jobs at the same time, and I think it was around Christmas.
Yo.
That was my first experience.
We're not cutting any of this. Nah, let me stop. Okay. Welcome to the industry, right? That's like, how people talk about, like, this was my welcome to the NBA moment. This is your welcome to...
New York.
Wow. New York medicine.
Yeah. So I spent Christmas at home really depressed. I I mean, I had just gone through, I mean, I had just gotten over my divorce. You know, I was graduated. I was getting paid pennies during residency, and I got paid pennies during this time. And that was, you know, I didn't know where I was going to get my next rent paycheck.
Wow. So everybody who thinks, oh, you just become a doctor and then you'll have every opportunity available to you, it's not that way.
I mean, I think for podiatry specifically, it's a little bit of a, you know, twist and turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it was, you know, I went into orthopedics, or if I went into cardiothoracic surgery, I think I could get a job at a hospital job and be okay right away. But with podiatry, I think it's a little bit different. You know, you can make it in podiatry, but it takes a lot, especially in New York. I could have moved out of the state and gotten a good paying job, but for some reason I didn't move out of New York. I just didn't feel like I should at the time, and also there was nowhere to go. Where was I going to go?
That's tough. To be put in that tough position, you don't have much family around. It's not like you can just say, well, worst come to worst, I'll just, you know, go home to where I grew up, you know, in the house I grew up in. That's tough.
My parents were telling me to come home, but I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have a license in that state.
Yeah, and they're in Indiana, correct?
I think where they were living at the time was Ohio.
So it's Ohio,
Yeah.
okay. Wow. Okay. So to be dealing with, you just got over your divorce. You come out of school.
I went through the divorce during residency, but I was still reeling from it.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
And in debt, because that's another
That's
story.
actually a question I want to go into, because a lot of people don't realize the amount of debt that you all go into to become doctors. And I kind of see college, like the absurd prices, where it's like college, it's not that college is a scam, even though maybe how it's marketed as this is the only way you can be successful is if you go to college. I think that's a scam. But if you go to college and you're not paying much and you go to get a good education, and let's say I'm a big fan of people going to community college first. Figure out what you want to do, maybe take a gap year or whatever, and then hopefully you can earn a scholarship to, you know, a bigger university. But the amount of debt that you all go into, it's almost impossible to get out of it unless you instantly have a high-paying job and are able to start paying it off. I mean, what was your experience with that?
I'm still in debt. I have a few friends who were smart. They went and they did they served in underdeserved communities, or they were able to live with their parents and basically pay off the debt that way, which I would recommend. Like, whatever you can do, just pay your loans when you can in the beginning, because if you can't do it, like me, first generation American, hey, you know, we'll figure out a way to pay the debt later. But if you can pay off the debt, I would recommend doing it. But it is a lot. Definitely is a lot.
Because now, and this is what I was saying earlier, as far as you go to school, and this is what most people don't realize, and I relate to it from a sports standpoint. And what they always say, NFL players within 5 years, 3 to 5 years after playing, go bankrupt. And like, it's, you know, people will just look at it on the surface and say it's just irresponsible NBA player or NFL players. But in all actuality, if you give any 20 to 25-year-old, you know, a lump sum of money, and they think that they're going to have it forever, right after that, most people would be in something, because you're not going to, from the sports perspective, most of those guys are not going to be able to make that type of money doing anything else. So it's likely that would happen. But for you all, I kind of went off on a tangent. The point for you guys is you go to school to become a doctor, not to become a business person. But when you now have found yourself in the position you're in now, you have to wear both hats. You have to be a business person as well as a doctor. And that's a lot to ask, right?
To be honest, most of my family are engineers, you know, like basically, and my father's from India. So basically the whole thing was you become a doctor, you become an engineer. And I loved physics. Trust me, I did. But I decided to become a doctor, and I didn't know any doctors, so I didn't know how much money came with becoming a doctor. That wasn't my whole thing. My whole thing was the degree, you know, like in our family, having the degree is everything.
And talk about that culture, because I think it's one that a lot of us Americanized, you know, people, not just from a degree standpoint, but a certain standard of, you know, you need to achieve a certain level. You know what I mean? Like it's you kind of speak on it a little bit.
I mean, it's a part of being a first generation as well. Like you just have this first generation guilt. Like your parents came here, they gave up everything for you. You better get some sort of degree. Like my brother's an engineer, my sister has an engineer degree, I have a doctorate. It was just kind of instilled with us from day one. You know, this is what you put on this earth for, is to get a higher degree, you know, to make us happy, because they made so many sacrifices for us, you know.
It's a lot of pressure.
It was pressure, but at the same time, I feel like my parents were very, very cool parents. Like they didn't make it seem like pressure, but they definitely pressured us.
So and was that because they also supported you?
They supported us at the same time. Like they definitely thought of us as individuals. You know, my sister being the oldest, me being the middle child. I came home one day saying, you know, I'm the middle child. That means like you're gonna not pay attention to me. So from that day, they paid extra attention to me. So my parents are very, very cool. I remember my sister came home, you know, from, this is on a tangent, being from multicultural, you know, we'd have to check boxes like, what are you? Are you black? Are you white? Are you African? Whatever. I don't even remember what Pacific Islander, I think, was on there. And she came home crying. She's like, what am I? I remember that. And then I remember when I had to do it, I raised my hand and I was like, you know, what should I check? And she's like, well, what are you? And I was like, I'm half Jamaican and half Indian. And I remember she's looking at me and she's like, you put Indian. And I was like, okay. So that kind of like just, no,
She told
really.
you to put Indian?
Yeah, she looked at me and she was like, put Indian.
Wow.
Or whatever that is,
And
Asian.
And how old were you then?
I was probably 7.
That could do a lot to a child's psyche, you know, because there's so many questions that I have now. I'm like, well, why choose Indian? You know, you just told her you're both. And now, and that's the thing with multiple choice answers, you know, overall, it's like, you're only giving me certain, why not just leave a blank space and I'll fill it in and tell you exactly what I am.
There was no other back then.
Wow.
There was no other. So you basically had to choose. There was no like, oh, I don't feel like I want to answer the question.
That's interesting. And it's one of those things where people never realize what other people go through. You know, that's something that I would never even think of, because they always have black, you know, on one, or African American, whatever they'll say. It's always there. But I never even thought, what if somebody doesn't feel included in this? What would that do to their, you know, the psyche, as far as just, you know, it's almost like, well, does my Jamaican side is not as important as the Indians? You know what I mean? I would ask myself these questions.
I feel like I was a delayed type of person, where I was like, all right, I'll do what my teacher says. My sister was the one coming home crying, like, I don't know what to do. But in the end, I think it kind of, like, my sister feels more, probably, my sister and brother actually feel more Jamaican and I feel more Indian. But I'm not sure where that whole thing stems from.
And it could be experiences, like it could be just different experiences. And a lot of times, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but a lot of times it's how other people perceive us. Like based on the environment that we're in. If we're in an environment that sees us as Indian, then, you know, we'll see us as Indian. If we're in an environment that sees us as Jamaican, then we'll more so see ourselves. So, and that can kind of be dangerous in a lot of different ways, because now we're always judging our individual perception of ourselves based on how everybody else perceives us.
Yeah, and as a child, you just go with whatever makes everyone else happy, to be honest. Like I don't know if you remember doing that, but I always, like, if this person's happy from my answer, yeah, I'm going to say that answer, you know, or I'm going to act this way.
You're right. Kids just want to fit in. Kids want to fit in. Kids don't want to, you know, make things uncomfortable. And you're right. And I'm thinking back to just different teams that I was on. Like this team may have all white kids. This team may have all black kids. You know, when baseball, the kids that I'm growing up with are totally different than the football and basketball kids that I'm growing up with. So you're right. And you want to, you know, everybody would like to see themselves as, you know, I stand up as me all the time. But you want to, like, nobody wants to take that burden on all the time.
But in the end, before the age, I always say this, I've said this many times, before the age of 27, how can you really know who you are? I mean...
Even at 27.
27 is,
Yeah.
It depends
Yeah.
on the person, 27, 28, but where your frontal lobe develops.
Yep.
I've said this so many times, like...
Talk about that, because I don't know if everybody knows what you just said, like if they're aware of that.
I mean...
With the frontal lobe.
Yeah, the frontal lobe development comes a little bit later in life. It's the one that kind of develops your personality and develops decision making, I would say, and things like that. So if it's not developed, you know, it's very difficult. You know, somebody can just come to you and basically shape you, and you let them do it.
Right. We're sponges.
Not on purpose, but you have to be careful and before a certain age, like what you're exposed to and things like that. I didn't know that personally until I started studying it. But we all think that we're of age at 18. It's not true. You know, there's so many more developmental things that need to happen until the age maybe 27, 28. And not a lot of people know that.
And that's scary. A lot of times we'll judge people and, you know, just see a situation where we'll scratch our heads and say, how could this person have done this? It's so stupid. It's so silly. You know, they should know better. But in all actuality, like you said, that frontal lobe, that decision making, that is not fully developed. And based on a child's environment, maybe theirs may develop differently or at a different pace and rate than somebody else. So that's
And
that's
you don't
scary.
have, like, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to put my hand on the fire and be like, I shouldn't do that. People think that you're developed at 18 because we're all told, but it doesn't, that decision making, you may want to put your hand on the fire because you just want that experience. So, yeah, you know.
Wow. Okay.
It's been studied.
Yeah. All right. So now that you're in a better place than dealing with all the fraud experiences, and I don't think that a lot of people understand how careful you have to be as a doctor.
Oh my goodness.
Like you talked about this fraud situation, but even so, what I notice is that a lot of times, especially like our parents' generation, they grew up so trustworthy of whether it's politicians or doctors or teachers, where it's like, whatever you told us, we believe it. And a lot of times when I'll talk to my parents, and I'll say, no, you need to go see this particular doctor. You know what I mean? Like, you need to see this person. Or they'll tell me, well, the doctor said this, doctor, or this person, my insurance company said this. And you don't realize how hands-on you have to be, because it is one of those industries where, because there's a lot of money maybe moving parts, you just want to find somebody that's just a good person. You know, so maybe it's good for more doctors to do this type of thing, you know, because you get to see exactly what type of person somebody is, rather than, okay, you start off here, you just try on these boots and you go. So it's tough to navigate. It's tough to navigate. And it's tough as an independent person like you, because now you have to compete with, it's like, oh, well, this person has to be a good doctor because I see all their billboards. And that's not necessarily the case.
It's not. I mean, after I got through the fraud situation, I got into a little bit of other things. Got out of those things, and I started working for other big doctors in the city. Yeah, you asked the question because I'm not really sure what I should say.
No. You speak your truth. And, yeah.
Yeah, so I got my first job with a practice. I'm not sure if I'd say the name of it.
No, you don't have to say the name. You don't have to say the name.
I was happy. I was like, he chose me. Great. You know, like, I'm here. The place looked amazing. Everybody was attractive. And being a kid, I just thought I was the chosen one, and I was happy. So getting there, I learned a lot of things. It was hard learning the business because a lot of that was taken away from me. I was blinded by the business part of it, but I was taught what to say. I was taught you need to dress like this, you need to act like this, you need to talk like this. You need to memorize your speech when you go in there. You need to be personable, and you need to know what you're saying and what you need to tell the person. You need to sell. Taught me how to sell, everything like that. But the things that were not good that came out of it was kind of like where the lines were blurred when it comes to what you should be doing and you shouldn't be doing as a physician when it comes to billing practices and things like that. Those lines were blurred, and that's what kind of was confusing at the same time. So finally, when I was fired from that job for certain things, I had a lot to learn after that. Can you ask me questions? Because
No, keep going. We'll lighten it up after this.
It was kind of like being in an abusive, toxic relationship. Like you're there and you have a lot of traumatic experiences, but you experience them nonetheless. But you take that with you wherever you go, and you have to kind of retrain your brain. In the end, like there was a lot of good things that I got from it. I got my bedside manner. I learned a lot of things, but a lot of things didn't end up. I don't know.
No, I understand. How about this? We're going to take a little bit of a turn.
Okay.
We're going to get into some fun stuff.
Okay.
We don't want to talk about fraud all day.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about fraud. We don't even want to speak on that energy.
We'll just cut that off.
Yeah, we can cut that. But some things that I do want to ask. I'll start off easy. Favorite color. What is Dr. Pathak's favorite color?
Oh my goodness. I think it has to be a hot pink.
A hot pink, not just a regular pink.
No, it's like a bright, bright hot pink.
Okay, bright, bright hot pink. What would be your second go-to?
Probably like a blue or a teal.
Whoa,
bright blue.
Okay, so those are kind of two of mine. So it goes purple. Purple's my favorite color. But my favorite combination is like the Charlotte Hornets, where it's the purple with the teal, the turquoise. And my favorite, I guess, overall combination is that South Beach color wave. So it's really that pinkish orange, like nighttime with the turquoise and the teal. So I'm with you on that.
You could taste those colors. I don't know.
You can...
Like Starburst, like.
Oh, no. I was a pink and red were my best.
Pink and green. Those are my favorite colors. I mean, that's my favorite combination of colors. But if you ask me, it'd be like a hot pink and like a teal.
Okay, so your favorite Starburst color, just one.
I mean, you only have one. It's pink.
Okay. Okay. What's your favorite candy?
Sprees, but the chewy Sprees.
Sprees, but the chewy. I'm not even sure if I've ever had Sprees. What's your favorite chocolate bar?
I'm sorry,
None?
no.
I'm a Baby Ruth guy.
Really?
Yeah, my pop, grandfather used to always eat those, and I don't know, maybe I just think about him.
That's a baseball player.
Yeah, Babe Ruth, yeah, baseball player. What's your favorite sport?
Oh my God, there's so many.
I know what it is.
What is it?
I know what your favorite sport to do is.
What?
Boxing.
I love boxing.
Yeah.
I love swimming. Those are my two
it's boxing
favorites.
and swimming?
My two favorite. I love everything. I love every single sport.
Yeah. Have you picked up this pickleball craze?
I haven't.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're in the summer in Long Branch, so I got a feeling that you'll run into some people that are pickle players. Get you out there.
The paddle.
Yeah. It's like a mixture to me between tennis and ping pong. You know, that's how I've never played it, so I may be completely off with that, but that's how I see it. What's the perfect date night for Dr. P?
let's stay PG.
Yeah, we'll keep it PG. We got that one. We got two. We got the unreleased. Go ahead.
I mean, basically, I'm a Libra with an Aquarius moon, so I like.
Hold on, break that down. Break that down for the non-educated when it comes to astrology. So Libra, what season is that?
So basically, Libra, you have the month. I can't remember, but I'm September 23rd. I'm on the cusp. I have like a whole lot of things going on, but I'm a Virgo Libra.
Okay.
In my sun, but you also have to know what you are in your moon. So you have to know what time you're born. So me finding out what time I'm born, I'm finding out I'm part Aquarius. So I'm a Virgo Libra sun and a Aquarius moon.
Wow. A lot going on.
A lot going on. And believe it or not, 2024, if you look at the signs, it's very big for Aquarius. We're in the Aquarian age of the Aquarius.
So this your year. Like when people say it's your year, this is really your year.
This is really my year.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so
I love that.
Anything like positive energy, just manifesting what you want. A lot of things have happened this year, though.
A lot of things.
Things that I didn't think would happen.
Are you big on manifesting?
I am.
Yeah.
I grew up with a religious family. Both my parents are pastors. I don't know if you can put this on the internet, but my parents both are pastors, and their parents were pastors. So
wow,
I come up from a very religious background. But as far as manifestation, I think it's for anybody, regardless of what religion you have.
I agree. There's just something about speaking something into existence and welcoming it, expecting it.
And it takes a certain person, it takes like a certain energy and a certain positivity. You have to be on a certain level with your energy.
Wow.
I don't know,
I'm learning more and more about that. And I think we have to, because like you said, no matter what the religion is, for me it's about the spiritual connection between not just developing in me, but my connection to each other, my connection to nature. I realized how my body feels, being down in Florida on the beach with the water. Like there's just this, I don't know what it is, but there's just a different energy that I feel when I'm down there. And us just connecting on a spiritual level overall. I think we should learn more about that.
It's hard because a lot of things, I don't know if you want to put this, but there's a lot of things like where vibration comes into it. There's, there's certain music that can, have you heard about
frequencies.
That? The frequency of the music,
Yeah.
it just goes to both ears, and then there's frequency that only goes to one ear.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you think about it, I think it's called stereo, where we used to have it in the 80s.
Mono and stereo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have it in the 80s where it would go through the whole bowl. You could hear it in both ears. But now, the music that they make now, it's very mono.
Wow.
But there's some music that still, you can hear it in both ears. But
yeah, I've heard different people talk about the different frequencies and how they impact you. Even in a bar, at a club where they know when people are going to be dancing, and then it's a frequency where, okay, this song comes on, more people are going to go to the bar. They're going to, just different things like that and even going, we're not going to go too far, but having different demonic frequencies and more evil rather than the uplifting. And when you listen to the music throughout the different times, it's almost it makes sense, because the music a lot of times of that time, it's the reason why it narrates what's happening in the culture.
yes. That's why, I think it's so weird. I had my boyfriend that was 28, and I'm thinking to myself, why? I'm freaking 43.
You're young.
But it's almost like we still have a connection. But he's from the Ukraine, so he was never really inundated with all these things in America. I could really never probably date an American 28. I don't know.
That's interesting. I think that's very interesting. People outside of America, even though us in America, us Americans, we think that everything revolves around us, that we're the greatest gift to everything. And a lot of times we don't pay attention to things that happen globally compared to people throughout the world paying attention to what happens maybe in America, because, it just is what it is. But that's a good point. People, it's environments. You know, I definitely think that a 20-year-old from another country is at a totally different maturity level, in my opinion, than a 20-year-old from America. Is that what you would?
I would say yes.
Right.
Obviously, we can't put this on the internet.
Yeah, well,
but-
it just is what it is. It just is what it is. So I'm not going to let you get away from my question. What is the perfect date night with Dr. P?
Okay, so.
And is there a different date night? Is there a different date night, the Dr. P date night, and then just the Neha date night?
Well, no, I don't think there's a Dr. P date night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that's it. Dr. P night is having to put on a front what other people want me to be.
Yeah.
It's not fun for me. But a Neha date night is a mixture of everything. It's like maybe we get dressed up, we go to kind of like a lounge, we have a few drinks, we talk, and then possibly, we change clothes. We might be able to go something in nature, like maybe to the late night walk on the beach or something like that. That would be what I would like.
Wow. And I see you doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
I see your Instagram, so she's not lying.
None of it is like Netflix and chill. Like, I mean, as far as like watching a movie, no, that's not something that I find.
Yeah.
I love watching movies by myself, but watching a movie with someone else is not something that I find.
Really?
Yes.
All right. Interesting. I'm a big rom-com guy.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you have to choose the movie with your partner.
You're right.
So it's very, very stressful.
I want to watch. Yeah, you want to watch what you want to watch. Listen, you go in that room, you watch what you want to watch. I'll be in here.
But if you decide to watch what the other person wants to watch, then you're still giving of yourself, which is fine. But it's not like your own, like what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to, like, my date night would be like something active, like riding a horse on the beach, like on the beachfront, right? Like, rent me a horse.
You got to go back to Jamaica. They have that, I feel like.
I've done that before, but it wasn't with the person that I wanted to be with, So, but if somebody that my significant other or something, and I was riding a horse with him, that'd be amazing.
All right, so I'm gonna have to give my bro a little game and tell him like, yo, you take a horseback riding. Well, I'm sure you've already told him.
He knows obviously he knows I like animals. Yeah. As far as like horses, that's a whole nother. I don't know if he's ever ridden horses. I'm sure he has. His family has a farm back in Ukraine.
Wow. So my godfather used to have a horse ranch.
Really?
So the good part was I was introduced to him when I was young. I had pictures like a baby. My dad, they got me with my godfather, like with the horse and stuff. But my godfather actually passed away before I could enjoy it as an adult. But I would have loved that. Like, I watched Yellowstone, 1873 or 63 and 83. I don't know, whatever one. Then they got the 1920, whatever. So I watched all those Western movies. I grew up on Westerns with my dad.
Me too.
Like, I love Western movies.
And the whole, Beyonce and her country, man.
What's that?
But Beyonce put out a country song and everybody's
like,
oh,
yeah. So this is all I know about it. Somebody made a comment that Beyonce was putting out some country music, but that they didn't want to consider it in the country music category. Is that?
No, I didn't hear
okay,
that.
all right. Well,
I just know that people were like, oh, well, stay in your lane. And I'm like, but come on.
My lane is don't try to box me in.
No, but
go ahead.
African culture created country music. I grew up to country music. That's all my mom used to play.
Well, the thing about country music is I think a lot of and maybe this is when we were younger. I like all different types of music based on my mood. You know what I mean? Sometimes I want to hear this type of music. Sometimes I want to hear R&B. When I'm going to the gym, sometimes I still listen to R&B. But I want to, I go based on my moods, whatever I'm feeling at the time. But there's a lot of, when you talk about, let's say like hip hop or something like that, or R&B, rhythm and blues, that's very much aligned with country. Like, especially when you think about the storytelling.
Especially in Chicago, come on. Have you ever been on the music scene in Chicago? Oh my God, you miss. I lived there.
Pizza
basically.
and music.
Jazz, blues.
I wanted to open up a jazz lounge. Matter of fact, I wanted to. I was in an entrepreneurship class in college, and that's what I decided to build out a business plan. It was like you took the whole semester to create a business plan. It was called The Shack. As a matter of fact, I'm editing that out. Y'all ain't taking my name, but it was called The Shack.
You need to do it.
And it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I did research on Charlotte. I would love that because that's what we're missing. I feel like a lot of times, like sometimes I don't want to go just to the. I don't ever want to go to the club. You know, like I'm just past that. But a nice lounge that could jazz lounge, it can have some comedy in there, like comedy. Like, all right, so we got something to work on.
The Shack.
The Shack. That's the name. Is The Shack. So we'll figure that out. I guess what's the last question? Oh, the last question. This is going to be a deep one. What do you feel your purpose is, and what legacy do you want to leave behind? Not only to your family, but just, it doesn't have to be too deep as far as like your, it could be your overall contribution to society, but just, what do you want to be always remembered for? We talk about energy. What energy is going to always circulate about you?
So basically, when I don't remember my age, but I had this dream and I woke up like in the start and I was like, oh my God. But the dream was that we had like this whole kind of compound where there was like theater, there was music, there was religion, there was also a medical clinic. And I basically woke up and I was like, I don't want to see this. Like, what are you doing to me? I don't want this vision. But yeah, I think that's probably what's going to be created eventually. I thought about it. I was like, I want to go back to school. I want to finish what I wanted to do was to find cures for certain diseases because I studied molecular biology when I was younger. I need to go back to school. I need to go back to school for bioengineering. And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't have a family yet. Like, what am I doing? Like, where am I going to leave my legacy? Like, I'm not going to have one. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'm hopefully going to have my kid. They're going to be just as the same brain that I have. And they're going to be able to go to school and kind of carry on my legacy. So I hope my legacy will be my child, if that answers your question.
I think that answers the question perfectly. I'm excited for you. I'm excited I think the world is a better place if more people look at it exactly how you look at it, from an energy perspective as well as a legacy and purpose. So I'm appreciative to have you a part of my life. And
Same here.
we'll build together.
I appreciate it.